The day my mom said, "You were always a mistake." The true story of how the cruelest words became the fuel for the greatest transformation of my life. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the warm aroma of buttered toast filled the tiny kitchen of our home in a working-class neighborhood in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was a chilly Saturday morning, March 23, 2019. Pale sunlight filtered through the foggy window, casting soft golden beams that danced over the scratched wooden table my dad had bought years ago at a discount store. My name is Ethan James Carter. I was 19 back then, sitting at that same table where our family had shared countless meals, trying to gather the courage to share news that wouldn't just change my life, it would uncover one of the most painful truths about my family. Our house was small, typical of lower middle-class America: 2 bedrooms, a modest living room that doubled as a dining area, a cramped open kitchen, and a single bathroom. The white painted walls showed signs of moisture, and the cheap vinyl flooring squeaked every time someone walked barefoot. It wasn't much, but it was what my parents, Karen and Mike, could afford on her admin job's salary and his work as an auto mechanic. I was the youngest child in a family that, from the outside, looked like any other, but behind the curtains my mom had sewn herself, there was a toxic dynamic that shaped my entire life. My older sister, Emily, was 24 at the time. She was the golden child. Graduated in business from a local university, working as an accountant, engaged to a guy my parents adored, Jason, who was a floor supervisor at a manufacturing plant. I, on the other hand, was always the problem child. The one who never seemed to meet the family's expectations. Since I was little, the comparisons were constant. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" Emily never gave us trouble. "Learn from her example." Those words echoed through our home so often they became the soundtrack of my childhood. Physically, I was the opposite of what my parents considered ideal. Emily took after my mom: straight blonde hair, green eyes, tall and naturally slim. I was more like my dad: curly dark hair, brown eyes, and shorter than most guys my age, around 5 feet 7 inches. And throughout my teens, I struggled with being overweight, which became yet another source of constant criticism. "Ethan's getting chubby again," my mom would casually mention to relatives, as if I wasn't sitting right there. "Don't know where he gets it from." Neither Mike nor I were ever like that. The truth is, my metabolism was different, but I had no idea back then how nutrition or exercise really worked. To my family, it was just more proof that I was the broken one. Academically, I wasn't failing. I averaged solid B's throughout high school, but I wasn't the straight-A student Emily was. "Ethan doesn't apply himself," my mom would declare at every parent-teacher conference. "He has potential but refuses to use it." The truth? I did try. I spent hours studying in my room, desperate to prove myself. But when you grow up constantly being told you're not enough, eventually, you start believing it. And when you believe it, you stop fighting as hard. Tech became my refuge. While Emily went out with friends and built her social life, I stayed in my room learning to code, building small websites, diving deep into online programming tutorials. It was my escape, my safe space, where I could create something meaningful and feel in control for once. To my parents, though, it was just another problem. "Ethan's glued to that computer again," my mom would complain to anyone within earshot. "Doesn't have any friends. Never leaves the house. I don't know what's gonna become of him." What they didn't realize was that this so-called obsession was setting me up for something far bigger than anything they could imagine. By 17, I was fluent in 5 programming languages. By 18, I was freelancing, making anywhere between $50 and $150 a month building websites for small local businesses. But even those small wins meant nothing to my family. "That's not a real job," my dad would scoff whenever I showed him a finished project. "Sitting at a computer won't put food on the table. You should learn something practical: plumbing, HVAC, auto repair." My mom would always agree. "Ethan needs to stop dreaming. This internet stuff isn't a real future. He's gonna have to face reality one day." During my senior year of high school in 2018, I threw myself into studying for college entrance exams, aiming for a computer science degree. I knew this was my shot, my way to prove I was capable, that I could build something real from what I loved. Every night, after school and chores, I studied from 7 p.m. until midnight. "What's Ethan even studying for?" my mom would ask Emily during dinner. "Computer science? Is that even a real career?" "Mama, yeah, of course it is," Emily would reply diplomatically. "Lots of people make good money in tech." "Well, Ethan, you know how he is. Always kinda lost. I doubt he's gonna get into anywhere decent." And they would say this right in front of me, as if I were invisible. As if my presence didn't matter. I swallowed the humiliation in silence, turning every cruel word into fuel to work even harder. By November 2018, I applied to 3 schools, University of Pittsburgh, Penn State, and a well-ranked private college. I also took the SAT, hoping for a scholarship. The waiting months were torture. I kept freelancing but with a laser focus now, because if I got accepted, I could prove them wrong. I could finally show them that I wasn't the failure they thought I was. In December, the first decisions came. Rejected from Pitt, competition was brutal. Waitlisted at Penn State, not looking promising. All that was left was the private college, and the scholarship results. "Told you," my mom said when she heard about Pitt and Penn State. "Ethan always aims too high. He needs to be realistic." Then, in January 2019, the SAT scholarship results came in. My scores were good enough to qualify for a full ride at the private college. This was it, my one shot. I spent all of January waiting in agony for the final decisions. The private college considered both SAT scores and financial need. The scholarship was my only chance to make this work. Finally, on February 15, 2019, I received 2 pieces of news that would change my life forever. I had been accepted into the private college through their entrance exam, and I had secured a full-ride scholarship through the Pell Grant program. I now had 2 incredible options to study computer science without it costing my family a single dollar. For weeks, I carried that news like a precious secret. I wanted to pick the perfect moment to share it, to savor the feeling of proving everyone wrong. I spent hours imagining how it would play out. I pictured my mom apologizing for doubting me, my dad finally recognizing my effort, Emily hugging me with genuine pride. I chose that Saturday morning, March 23rd. My parents were quietly having breakfast. Emily had come over the night before to spend the weekend with us, and the atmosphere felt peaceful. It felt like the perfect moment. "Dad, Mom," I started, sitting at the table with a cup of coffee in hand, trying to steady my nerves. "I need to tell you something important." My dad lowered the newspaper, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which he religiously read every Saturday, and looked at me with a mix of curiosity and cautious concern. My mom stopped buttering her toast and turned to me, her face unreadable. "What is it now, Ethan?" she asked, already sounding tired, as if bracing herself for bad news. "I got accepted into college," I said, trying to sound casual but failing to hide the grin spreading across my face. "Computer science. Full scholarship." The silence that followed was thick, heavy with something I couldn't quite name. My dad blinked a few times, like he was trying to process it. My mom froze, still holding her toast in midair. Emily looked up from her phone. "Seriously, Ethan? That's amazing. Congratulations." It was the reaction I had desperately hoped for from my parents, but it came only from my sister. "What college?" my dad asked, his voice flat, not proud, not happy. Just neutral. "Duquesne University," I answered, still holding on to hope. "It's one of the best private colleges around here for computer science. And I got a full ride. It won't cost you anything." My mom finally set her toast down on the plate but didn't take a bite. She stared at me with a look I'd never seen before, a strange mix of irritation, disbelief, and something disturbingly close to contempt. "Ethan," she said, her voice cold enough to make my stomach knot, "do you really think you're going to finish college?" Her words hit me like a slap. What do you mean?" "You've never finished anything in your life," she snapped. You started guitar lessons, quit. Tried swimming, lasted 2 weeks. Took Spanish classes, dropped out halfway. What makes you think this will be any different? Each example felt like a punch to the gut. They were random moments from childhood, times I lost interest or struggled, but now she was stacking them up as proof that I was fundamentally incapable. Mom, this is different, I said, feeling my voice tighten. Programming is something I love. It's something I'm good at. Good at, she interrupted, her voice now laced with open cruelty. Ethan, you live in a fantasy world. You always have. You really think you can handle college? You, who was never even a top student. I had decent grades, I protested, feeling my eyes sting. Decent, she sneered. Not excellent like Emily's. Look at her, a stable job, engaged, responsible, an adult. And you. The comparison sliced deep, as it always had, but this time, there was something sharper, something far more venomous in her tone. Karen, that's enough, my dad muttered, but his voice was weak, lacking conviction. No, Mike, it's not enough, she snapped, her voice rising as if years of frustration were finally breaking through. Someone needs to tell him the truth. Ethan's always been a dreamer, always living in La La Land. Now he wants to study, what? Computers? So he can be one of those unemployed nerds? It felt like the floor was collapsing beneath me. Emily tried to jump in. Mom, stop. He worked so hard for this. You don't get it, Emily, my mom shot back, turning on her. You've always been responsible. You've always had your head on straight. Ethan's different. Always has been. Then she turned her eyes back to me. And in that moment, I saw something I never thought I'd see in the woman who gave birth to me, pure rejection. Genuine disgust. Ethan, she said, her voice dripping with a venom so potent it felt like it was burning through my skin, do you really want to know the truth? The real truth? My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Every instinct in me screamed to stand up, leave, run, not to hear what was coming next. But I sat there. Frozen. Like a deer caught in headlights. The truth is, you were always a mistake. Her words hung in the air like a grenade that had just detonated. The silence afterward was suffocating. The world stopped. Emily gasped, covering her mouth. My dad shut his eyes like someone had punched him square in the gut. Karen, he whispered, but she wasn't finished. Yes. A mistake, she spat, her eyes glassy but not with sorrow, with rage. You weren't planned. You weren't wanted. And from the day you were born, all you've brought us is stress and disappointment. Every word was a dagger. It felt like my chest was being ripped open. Like someone was reaching in and tearing out my heart with their bare hands. When Emily was born, we were ready. We were happy. Excited. It was perfect. But you were an accident. A slip-up. And look how that turned out, a 19-year-old who still doesn't know what he wants, living in some fantasy, thinking he's going to be a computer guy. Mom, stop. Please, Emily begged, now crying openly. But I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. My entire existence had just been reduced to those brutal, unforgiving words. You were always a mistake. You want to go to college, my mom continued, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. Fine. Go. But don't come crying back when you realize you can't handle it. When you disappoint yourself again. When life crushes those childish dreams of yours. She shoved her chair back, the screech of wood on tile slicing through the silence like a blade. I'm done hoping, Ethan. Done believing you'll change. Done believing you'll grow up. You are who you are. And who you are, is the biggest mistake I ever made. With that, she walked out of the kitchen, her footsteps fading down the hall, followed by the slam of the bedroom door. And then, nothing. I sat there. Paralyzed. Numb. As if my very soul had been shattered into 1,000 pieces. Emily rushed to me, throwing her arms around me, sobbing. "Ethan, she didn't mean it," she whispered through tears. She was upset. She didn't mean it. But I knew. I knew she did mean it. There was a raw, brutal honesty in her words that had been bottled up for 19 years, and it exploded that morning. My dad remained seated, staring down at his half-eaten breakfast like he didn't know what to say, what to do. Eventually, he muttered, "Son, your mom was upset. Don't take it to heart." But it was too late. The damage was done. But it was too late. The words were already seared into my soul like a branding iron. "You were always a mistake." I slowly stood from the table like a robot running on broken code. Emily reached out, trying to grab my arm, but I gently pulled away. "It's okay, Emily," I said, surprised at how steady my voice sounded despite the hurricane ripping through my chest. "I'm going to my room." I climbed the stairs like I was walking in slow motion. Each step felt like dragging a mountain behind me. I opened the door to my room, a tiny space with a twin bed, a second-hand wooden desk where my old Dell Inspiron sat, and shelves cluttered with tech books and random gadgets. I sat on the edge of the bed, and for the first time since my mother started speaking, I allowed the tears to come. I cried the kind of cry you barely remember how to do, the deep, guttural sobs that feel like they're tearing you apart from the inside out. "You were always a mistake." Those words looped in my mind like a broken record. 19 years of life reduced to 6 cruel syllables. 19 years of trying to be good enough, to be accepted, to fit into a family that never truly wanted me, only to realize I was never wanted in the first place. I stayed there for hours, cycling between suffocating grief and an emptiness so vast it felt like it could swallow me whole. I heard Emily come upstairs, probably to check on me. I pretended to be asleep. Later, I heard my dad come up too, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. By nightfall, I finally got up. I turned on my computer and stared blankly at the glowing screen, numb. My life had shifted on its axis in a matter of minutes, not just because of the cruelty in her words, but because of the horrifying clarity they brought. It all made sense now. Every comparison. Every dismissal. Every cutting remark disguised as advice. I wasn't the troubled kid who could never meet expectations. I was the unwanted kid who never stood a chance from the beginning. And that night, lying in the dark, something inside me shifted. Something broke. But something else ignited. If I was a mistake, then I was going to be the most spectacular mistake this family had ever seen. If I wasn't supposed to exist, then I would build a life so extraordinary, it would be impossible to ignore me. Not out of revenge. Not out of cruelty. But out of pure, stubborn self-love. Out of the unrelenting need to prove, not to them, but to myself, that I had worth. That I mattered. That I was destined for greatness. Her words would never stop hurting. But that pain would become my fuel. The boy who was called a mistake was about to become the man who proved that even mistakes can become masterpieces. Monday, March 25, 2019, arrived cold, gray, and rainy in Pittsburgh, as if the sky itself mirrored the state of my soul. My alarm went off at 6 a.m., but I'd been awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word from that Saturday. "You were always a mistake." Her voice echoed like an annoying song stuck on repeat. But in the 48 hours since that conversation, something fundamental had shifted inside me. The pain was still there, sharp, gnawing, but now it was paired with a sense of determination stronger than anything I'd ever felt. I got out of bed with a strange kind of manic energy. I showered, brushed my teeth, and headed downstairs for breakfast. My mom was in the kitchen, frying eggs and making coffee, like she had every morning for as long as I could remember. When she saw me, her expression stiffened. There was no apology. No acknowledgement that she'd crossed a line no parent ever should. It was as if nothing had happened, as if we were supposed to just move on. "Morning," I said quietly, pouring myself a cup of coffee. "Morning," she replied without meeting my eyes. My dad had left early for work, like he always did on Mondays. Emily had gone back to her apartment Sunday night after a long talk where she tried to convince me, Mom didn't mean it, Ethan. She was stressed. You know how she gets sometimes. But I knew better. There was no walking back what she'd said. The brutal honesty in her voice wasn't the kind that came from stress, it was the kind that had been waiting for years to be said. I finished my coffee in silence, then went back upstairs. If I was a mistake, then I was about to become a mistake that built his own empire. I powered on my Dell Inspiron, an old machine I'd bought secondhand with freelance money, and did something I'd never done before. I wrote out a 5-year plan for my life. I grabbed a notebook and split a page into 4 columns, 6-month goals, 1-year goals, 2-year goals, 5-year goals. It was March 25, 2019. And by March 25, 2024, my life would be unrecognizable. 6-month goals, by September 2019. Be enrolled in computer science, maintaining at least a 3.7 GPA. Build a portfolio with 10 impressive personal projects. Earn at least $500 per month from freelance work. Lose 30 pounds and be in the best shape of my life. Achieve total emotional independence from my family. 1-year goals, by March 2020. GPA of 3.9 or higher. Monthly income of $1,000 or more. Participate in at least 3 programming competitions. Athletic level fitness. Move out, either solo or with roommates. 2-year goals, by March 2021. Be in the top 10% of my class. Monthly income of $2,000 or more. Land an internship at a well-known tech company. Have a recognized personal brand in the tech community. 5-year goals, by March 2024. Graduate with honors. Earn at least $5,000 per month. Own my own tech company. Be recognized as a leader in my field. Have undeniable respect from my family, whether they liked it or not. Writing those goals felt both terrifying and liberating. They were huge. Nearly impossible for someone who had just been told he was an accident. But that was exactly why I had to achieve them. I started that very day. I set up profiles on every freelance platform I could find: Upwork, Fiverr, Freelancer.com, Guru. I spent hours writing detailed descriptions of my services, uploading my previous work, and setting competitive, but not cheap, rates. That same week, I signed up at the cheapest gym nearby, $25 a month at a small local place 15 minutes from my house. I spent hours researching nutrition, crafted a meal plan based on simple, affordable foods, and built a workout routine I could stick to. I also officially enrolled at Duquesne University under the Pell Grant program. Classes would start in August, 5 months to prepare financially, mentally, and physically. The first week was brutal. I'd wake up at 6 a.m., eat breakfast in awkward silence with my mom, who still treated me like I was invisible, then work on freelance jobs from 7 to 11. From 11 to 12:30, I hit the gym. Came back, quick lunch, then back to work from 2 to 6. After dinner, I studied programming, algorithms, and advanced math from 7:30 to 10:30 every night. It was an exhausting routine, but every hour, every task was fueled by a clean, sharp fire. A determination born directly from those cruel words. You were always a mistake. With each passing day, those words hurt a little less, and powered me a little more. In the first month, I managed to land only 2 small freelance jobs, a website for a local diner, $150, and a simple client management system for a dentist's office, $100. $250 in April, far from the $500 monthly goal I had set for September, but it was a start. At the gym, progress was slow. I weighed 196 pounds when I started. For my 5 feet 7 inches frame, I was definitely overweight. My goal was to reach 163 pounds. In the first month, I lost just 4 pounds. It was frustrating, but I kept going. At home, the tension was suffocating. My mom had started speaking to me again, but only the bare minimum. Are you eating? Can you grab some groceries? Your laundry's done. Warm conversations, emotional support, genuine interest in my life, all of that had completely vanished. My dad tried to maintain a sense of normalcy, occasionally asking how my computer jobs were going, but there was a quiet awkwardness between us now, like we all knew something had broken that Saturday morning, and none of us knew how to fix it. Emily visited on Sundays and would always try to talk to me about everything. "Ethan, you seem different." "Distant," she said one Sunday in May. "I'm more focused," I answered, and it was true. "I have a lot of goals I need to hit." "What kind of goals?" I explained the 5-year plan. My financial goals, my academic goals, my determination to build full independence. Emily listened with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Ethan, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. What Mom said, it was cruel. It was wrong. But you don't have to work yourself to death to." "It's not about proving anything," I interrupted, though we both knew it was exactly about that. "It's about building the life I want." In the second month, May 2019, things started to pick up. I landed 4 projects, 2 websites, $200 each, an inventory management system for a small retail shop, $300, and a basic fitness app for a personal trainer, $400. $1,100 in 1 month, more money than I'd ever seen at once. At the gym, I had lost nearly 14 pounds. For the first time in my life, I started seeing muscle definition. My physical self-esteem skyrocketed. I discovered that pushing my body, lifting, sweating, grinding, was a perfect outlet for the anger and frustration I carried. But more important than the physical change, was what was happening in my mind. Every small victory, every client landed, every pound lost, every new algorithm mastered, was a brick laid in the construction of a new identity. I was no longer the mistake son. I was becoming the young entrepreneur who refuses to quit. Then, in June, something happened that would change the trajectory of everything. One of my clients, the owner of a small business consultancy, was so impressed with the website I built for him that he recommended me to a friend who ran a growing startup. The company was called Tech Solutions, and they were looking for a part-time junior developer to help maintain their internal systems and assist with new projects. The pay? $700 per month for 25 hours a week. Remote. Flexible. Real experience. When I read the offer email, I stared at the screen for 5 full minutes, barely breathing. It was exactly the opportunity I'd been waiting for. Legitimate work in my field. A steady income. Real-world experience. And enough flexibility to keep freelancing and prepare for college. The interview was via Zoom. On the other end was Chris Mendel, 35 years old, founder of Tech Solutions. He was tall, with silver streaks in his hair and a light blue dress shirt. Calm. Professional. Kind. He asked technical questions, showed me some of the systems I'd be helping maintain, and explained the company culture. "Ethan," he said at the end of the call, "your portfolio is seriously impressive for someone your age. You self-taught all this?" "Yes, sir. I started learning coding when I was 15. YouTube tutorials, online forums, lots of trial and error." "And you're starting college soon?" "Yes. I start my computer science degree at Duquesne in August." "Perfect. Practical experience alongside formal education is exactly what we look for." He paused for a moment. "The job is yours if you want it. You'd start next Monday." When the call ended, I just sat there in silence, letting it sink in. In just 3 months, I had gone from the family mistake to junior developer at a real startup. It was a quantum leap in my life. I went downstairs to tell my parents. They were watching the local evening news. My mom was crocheting, half listening to the anchor's voice. "Dad, Mom," I began, trying to sound casual despite the adrenaline pumping through me, "I got a job." My dad muted the TV. "What kind of job?" "Junior developer. At a tech startup." Part-time. I'll be working remotely. They're paying me $700 a month. Silence. My mom stopped crocheting and looked at me with an expression that was equal parts surprise and skepticism. $700 a month, my dad repeated. For real? For real. 25 hours a week. Fully remote. And, are you sure it's not a scam? My mom asked. Her very first reaction was doubt. Not congratulations. Not pride. Suspicion. It's legit. Contract signed. Taxes, benefits, everything. It's a real job. My dad stood up, walked over, and patted me on the shoulder. Well, congrats, son. That's a decent amount for a first job. My mom returned to her crocheting. Just make sure you don't waste all that money on nonsense. Kids your age, they blow it on junk. There was no celebration. No family dinner. No, we're proud of you. For a normal family, their 19-year-old landing a job like this would have been a huge deal. But for mine, it was treated like just another Tuesday. But the truth was, I didn't need their approval anymore. Every paycheck, every client, every line of code, was building something far more powerful than their validation. I was building myself. That Monday, June 17, 2019, I officially started as a junior developer at Tech Solutions. My office was still my tiny bedroom, but for the first time in my life, that room didn't feel like a cage. It felt like mission control, the headquarters of the life I was about to build. And something incredible happened in those first weeks. Chris Mendel turned out to be the kind of boss every young developer dreams of. He gave me autonomy. He treated my questions with patience. He listened to my ideas. He respected my work, even though I was the youngest person on the team by far. Ethan, he told me in one of our weekly check-ins, you've got a rare gift for learning fast. Some devs take months to grasp what you figured out in a week. It was the first time in my life that someone in a position of authority looked me in the eyes and said, you are capable. You are talented. 19 years of hearing the opposite. Of being compared. Doubted. Criticized. Suddenly, a grown adult, a successful one, was saying the words my heart had needed all along. With my job income combined with freelance gigs, July became the first month of my life where I earned more than $1,200. More than my dad made fixing cars. More than my mom made working admin. I started making plans to move out. Not out of anger or a need to run away, but out of a deep psychological necessity to have my own space, away from the toxic energy that now hung between my mother and me. By August, when college classes started, I was in the best shape of my life. 174 pounds, lean, defined muscles, and a mental sharpness I had never experienced before. My income was stable. My professional confidence was growing by the day. And for the first time ever, I truly believed in myself. Duquesne University was about a 40-minute commute from my house by public transit. The campus was modern, clean, filled with state-of-the-art computer labs, machines way more powerful than the beat-up Dell I worked on at home. On my first day, I walked into a classroom with 45 other computer science freshmen. Some had come straight from high school. Others were older, already working in the tech industry. There was this fascinating mix of ages, backgrounds, and stories. Our first professor was Dr. Robert Sanders, mid-50s, a PhD from Carnegie Mellon, and someone who'd been teaching for over 2 decades. He gave us a brutally honest introduction to the program. Computer science is not an easy major, he said, looking each of us directly in the eyes. You will study advanced mathematics. Complex logic. Algorithms that will make your head hurt. More than half of you won't make it past junior year. It was exactly the kind of challenge I needed to hear. All my life, people, especially my family, had doubted my ability to stick with anything. To have discipline. To finish what I started. Who here has already worked as a developer? Dr. Sanders asked. A few hands went up, including mine. For how long? he asked when he pointed at me. About 4 years as a hobby. Professionally, 4 months now. What kind of work? Junior developer at a startup. Plus websites and systems for small businesses. He nodded with visible approval. Practical experience gives you a major advantage. You'll see that soon. And he was right. In the coming months, that advantage became crystal clear. While many classmates struggled with basic programming concepts, I was already fluent in multiple languages. While they worked on simple projects, I was helping classmates debug their code and building complex systems that impressed even the faculty. My first grade was a 98% in algorithms and data structures. Then a 100% in programming fundamentals. A 95% in discrete mathematics. When first semester grades came in, my GPA stood at 3.9, second highest in the entire cohort. The top spot belonged to a woman named Sarah, 22, who had been working as a systems analyst for years. It was the kind of academic achievement I'd never come close to in high school, where my GPA hovered between 2.5 and 3.0. The difference now was simple: I was studying something I loved. Something that directly aligned with my passion and my career. At home, my parents occasionally asked about college. "How's school going?" my dad asked over dinner in October. "GPA's 3.9, I said casually. "Is that good?" "Second highest in my class." Silence. My mom kept eating without saying a word. My dad nodded. That's good, son." That was it. No celebration. No pride. No acknowledgement of the countless hours I spent grinding, studying, working. For a normal family, a kid pulling a 3.9 in a computer science program would be a huge deal. For mine, it was just another bland fact. But I didn't need their validation anymore. Every A I earned was proof to myself that I was capable, intelligent, disciplined. Every success was another piece of evidence that my mom had been wrong, that I was not a mistake. That I was someone with extraordinary potential who had simply never been given the chance to thrive. In November 2019, another life-changing opportunity landed in my lap. Chris Mendel, my boss at Tech Solutions, scheduled a one-on-one Zoom meeting. "Ethan, I need to talk to you about something important," he began. "Sure. What's up?" "Tech Solutions is growing faster than we anticipated. We just signed 3 big clients, and we're expanding the team." "That's awesome. And I'd like to offer you a promotion. Mid-level developer, $1,100 a month. 35 hours a week. Remote. What do you think?" Mid-level developer. At 19. After just 5 months of professional work. A role most developers didn't reach until years into their careers. "Chris, absolutely. I just want to make sure I can balance it with school." "Of course. We'll keep the flexibility. You set your hours, as long as the work gets done." When the call ended, I sat there, staring at the screen. Processing what had just happened. In 8 months, I had gone from 0 to $1,100 a month, plus side freelancing gigs. It was more money than anyone in my family had ever made. More than I ever thought possible at 19. More than enough to prove, definitively, that I was not a mistake. That I had real skills. Real value. That night at dinner, I shared the news. $100, my dad asked, eyebrows shooting up. "Ethan, that's more than I make." "And, you're sure they won't just fire you after?" my mom chimed in, always finding the shadow in any light. "I'm sure. It's a promotion based on performance. Recognition of the work I've done." For the first time in months, my dad smiled, a real, genuine smile. "Proud of you, son. You're doing good." My mom stayed quiet. Back to her plate. Business as usual. By December 2019, just 9 months after that brutal Saturday in March, I took stock of where I stood. GPA 3.9, second highest in my class. $1,100 per month as a mid-level developer. Around $350 per month in freelance side income. 167 pounds, lean and fit, the strongest I'd ever been. A confidence and self-esteem I'd never known. Professional respect from my boss and colleagues. Complete financial independence. I had crushed even the most ambitious goals I'd set for myself back in March. I had proven, beyond any doubt, that I wasn't just capable of discipline and success, but that I was damn good at what I did. But more important than money or grades, was something deeper. I had reclaimed my dignity. The words, "You were always a mistake," still stung when I remembered them, but now, they felt like they'd been spoken by someone who simply never really knew me. The boy rejected by his own mother, was becoming a man who built his own worth. His own identity. His own future. And this, was just the beginning. January 2020 arrived, and for the first time in my life, I woke up every day with a feeling I had never experienced before, freedom. I had turned 20 in December, and everything felt wide open. Possible. Limitless. The transformation was almost surreal. Physically, I was unrecognizable. From 196 pounds, I had dropped to 165, lean muscle, defined abs, shoulders broad and strong. 3 days a week in the gym, a clean, disciplined diet, and the natural energy that came from winning in both life and work had reshaped not just my body, but my soul. When I looked in the mirror, I saw someone I respected. Someone who commanded respect. Professionally, I was fully established as a mid-level developer at Tech Solutions, pulling in $1,100 a month, plus another $500 to $700 from weekend freelancing gigs. A total monthly income of around $1,600 to $1,800 at 20 years old, more than double my family's combined income. Academically, I finished my first semester with a GPA of 3.9, second in my class. My professors knew me by name. Classmates regularly asked for my help on projects. I had become a reference point for other freshmen. But the most important transformation was psychological. I had completely rebuilt my self-esteem. My identity was now rooted in real accomplishments, not in anyone's approval. In February, I made a decision that symbolized total independence. I got my own apartment. It was a 375 square foot studio in the South Side Flats, about 20 minutes from my parents' house and 30 minutes from campus. Rent was $700, plus $100 in utilities. A total of $800, easily affordable with my income. When I told my family I was moving, the reactions were predictable. "You sure about this, Ethan?" my dad asked, genuinely concerned. "Living alone's a big responsibility. What if something goes wrong with work?" "Dad, I've had a stable income for nearly a year. I know how to manage money. I know how to handle myself." My mom was, as usual, more blunt. "I think it's premature. You're too young to live alone. And wasting money on rent when you can stay here for free, it's foolish." "Mom. I need independence. This is a normal step for any young adult." She sighed, shaking her head. "I just hope you don't regret it later." Emily, of course, was the only one truly supportive. "Ethan, this is awesome. You've worked so hard. I'm so proud of the man you've become this year." On February 15, 2020, exactly 11 months after that soul-crushing Saturday, I carried my things into my very first apartment. It was a deeply symbolic moment. The kid once called a mistake now had his own place, paid for with his own work, where nobody could belittle him again. The apartment was small but perfect. One open space that functioned as bedroom, living room, and office. A modern kitchenette. A full bathroom. I bought simple but good furniture, a queen-sized bed, a comfortable sofa, a large desk for my setup, and a 43-inch TV. For the first time in my life, I had a space that was 100% mine. Decorated my way. Organized how I wanted. A place where I could work, study, and rest without anyone's negativity poisoning the air. The first few weeks alone were eye-opening. I realized I was far more disciplined and organized than my family had ever given me credit for. I kept the place spotless. Cooked healthy meals. Balanced work, school, and the gym like clockwork. It was as if, away from the limiting beliefs and constant criticism, my real personality finally had space to breathe. Focused. Ambitious. Capable. By March 2020, exactly 1 year since that devastating conversation, I reflected deeply on my journey. In 365 days, I had gone from the mistake's son to a successful young professional, with my own apartment, a high income, academic excellence, and bulletproof self-confidence. And I was just getting started. The goals I had set a year ago were being crushed one by one, and it was time to set even bigger ones. Then, the pandemic hit. When the lockdown was announced in March 2020, my first reaction was fear. What if Tech Solutions struggled? What if I lost my job? What if everything I'd built came crashing down? But Chris Mendel quickly reassured the entire team. Actually, the pandemic will probably benefit companies like ours, he said in a team meeting. Every business now needs digital solutions. We're about to get busier, not slower. He was right. In the early months of the pandemic, Tech Solutions exploded with growth. Businesses that had resisted going digital suddenly had no choice. Everyone needed online platforms, delivery systems, remote tools, fast. Then in May 2020, Chris called me into another one-on-one meeting that would change everything. "Ethan, I've got a proposal for you," he said, getting straight to the point. "The company's growing so fast, we can't keep up with demand. I'm planning to open a new division focused on mobile app development." "That sounds exciting. Where do I fit in?" "I want you to lead it. Head of Mobile Development, $2,000 a month, plus profit sharing. Head of Development. At 20 years old. A promotion that would normally take a decade to reach." "Chris. I've never led a team before." "Ethan, in the last 2 years, you've proven you're not just a brilliant developer. You've got maturity, responsibility, and the ability to think strategically. I trust you." It was the single most meaningful professional validation I had ever received. A seasoned entrepreneur was betting a piece of his company on me. "I'm in," I said without hesitation. "Great. You'll get a hiring budget for 2 junior devs. We already have 3 app contracts lined up." Over the next few months, I built my first team. I hired Marina, 23, recently graduated in information systems, and Raphael, 25, a self-taught dev like me with 3 years of experience. Both were sharp, motivated, and eager to grow. And I discovered something about myself: I had a natural talent for leadership. I could explain complex concepts in simple ways. I could motivate the team through rough deadlines. I could make high-stakes technical decisions, and get them right. By August 2020, our division had delivered 5 successful mobile apps to clients. We generated over $35,000 in revenue for the company and quickly established Tech Solutions as the go-to shop for mobile development in the region. My income jumped to $2,000 a month, plus about $500 from profit sharing. A total of $2,500 monthly at 20 years old. Leading a team. At a company growing like wildfire. At college, I kept excelling. Even with remote learning, I was always the first to jump into class discussions, had top grades on every project, and professors frequently held me up as an example for other students. In September, Dr. Sanders, the same professor who had warned us about how brutal computer science would be, asked to meet privately. "Ethan, your work has been phenomenal," he said. "I'd like to invite you to join a research project I'm running on artificial intelligence in healthcare." "Professor, that would be an honor." "It's ambitious. We're developing a system that can analyze medical exams and detect patterns doctors might miss. If we succeed, it could change preventive diagnostics forever." I committed 10 hours a week to the research, on top of work, school, and the gym. It was demanding. But every breakthrough felt electric. We were building technology that could literally save lives. Then, in December 2020, Dr. Sanders hit me with yet another curveball, one that would shift my academic trajectory completely. "Ethan," he said, "our project has caught the attention of researchers at Carnegie Mellon. They want to collaborate, and they suggested you apply to transfer into their computer science program." Carnegie Mellon, the most prestigious university for computer science in the United States. The same school I had once dreamed of, but never dared to apply to 2 years earlier. "Professor, is that even possible?" I asked. "With your current GPA, your research publications, and my recommendation, I have no doubt you'll be accepted," Dr. Sanders replied. It was an incredible opportunity, but also terrifying. Leaving the comfort of Duquesne, where I was known, respected, and thriving, to step into the hyper-competitive world of Carnegie Mellon. But it was exactly the kind of challenge the boy I once was would have been afraid to face, and the man I'd become was ready to conquer. In January 2021, I submitted my transfer application to Carnegie Mellon. The process was intense: academic transcript reviews, letters of recommendation, a personal interview, and a formal presentation of the AI healthcare project I had been developing. During the interview, a Zoom call with 3 professors from the School of Computer Science, I felt a confidence I'd never known 2 years earlier. "Ethan," said Dr. Andrew Martinez, head of the program, "your profile is remarkable. GPA 3.9, team lead in a growing tech company, published research in AI. What drives you?" A simple question, but one that went straight to the heart of my journey. "Professor," I answered, "for a long time, the people closest to me doubted whether I was capable of anything meaningful. I learned that the only way to silence doubt, mine or anyone else's, is through results. Every achievement I've had is proof that limitations exist only in our minds." The professors exchanged approving glances. "And what are your plans after graduation?" Dr. Martinez asked. "I want to pursue a master's and a PhD, specializing in AI applied to medicine. My goal is to create technology that democratizes access to quality diagnostics worldwide." In March 2021, exactly 2 years after the worst day of my life, the email arrived: I had been accepted. Full transfer. All credits recognized. I would be starting as a junior at the #1 computer science school in the world. When I told my family, the reactions said everything about who they were. "Carnegie Mellon," my dad said, clearly stunned. "Ethan, that's incredible. That's one of the best universities in the world." For the first time in 2 years, I saw genuine pride in my dad's eyes. My mom, as expected, was more measured. "I just hope you can keep up with the pressure. I mean, that place must be really hard." Even in the face of one of the biggest wins of my life, she still found a way to sprinkle doubt. Emily, though, was over the moon. "Ethan, I am so proud of you. Carnegie Mellon. My little brother, at freaking Carnegie Mellon." It was fascinating to watch how each family member processed my success through the lens of their own personalities and our shared history. But something had shifted. The doubts, the passive-aggressive remarks, none of it held power over me anymore. I had built emotional armor so strong that validation, or the lack of it, had stopped being relevant. In April 2021, I began my first semester at Carnegie Mellon. The campus was enormous. The labs were futuristic. The professors were global authorities in their fields. It was intimidating and exhilarating. The difference in level was obvious. My classmates were extraordinarily sharp. The coursework was brutal. The projects demanded everything. But I was ready. 2 years of relentless discipline, professional leadership, and unshakable self-confidence had equipped me to not just survive here, but thrive. In my first semester at CMU, I maintained a GPA of 3.8, joined 2 research projects, and was selected as a teaching assistant for advanced programming. At Tech Solutions, Chris gave me full autonomy to expand the mobile division. I hired 2 more developers. We landed contracts with 3 rapidly growing startups. Our quarterly revenue soared to $60,000. By then, I was making $3,000 a month, at 21 years old, leading a team of 5, studying at the best computer science school in the world, publishing research, and building tech products used by real businesses. It was a life that exceeded any dream I'd dared to have 2 years ago. But more important than the money, was the unshakable sense of self-worth I had built. I no longer needed anyone's approval. Not my mom's. Not anyone's. The boy who had once been told, "You were always a mistake," was now the young man others pointed to as proof of what relentless determination and self-belief could achieve. And my journey was just getting started. December 2021 marked almost 3 years since that morning that changed my life forever. At 21, I had built a trajectory that shattered every expectation anyone, including myself, had ever had for that insecure, awkward kid rejected by his own mother. I was entering my final year of computer science at Carnegie Mellon with a cumulative GPA of 3.9. I was leading a team of 7 developers at Tech Solutions, making $4,000 a month. I had 3 published papers in international AI conferences. My senior thesis, an AI model for medical diagnostics, was attracting attention from researchers worldwide. Physically, I was unrecognizable. I weighed 172 pounds of pure muscle. I practiced CrossFit 5 times a week. I discovered a passion for indoor rock climbing that gave me even more mental discipline. Psychologically, I was someone entirely different. Confident but not arrogant. Ambitious but grounded. Respectful, but unwilling to tolerate disrespect from anyone. My apartment reflected who I'd become. I had moved into a 700-square-foot loft in Shadyside, with skyline views of Pittsburgh. Sleek. Minimalist. Modern. Not flashy, but unmistakably the home of someone who had built their freedom from the ground up. Framed on the wall, next to my desk, was my very first paycheck from Tech Solutions, $700. Not out of vanity, but as a daily reminder that every empire starts with a single brick. Then, in January 2022, something happened that not even my wildest dreams had prepared me for. Dr. Sanders called me one Friday afternoon, his voice practically buzzing with excitement. "Ethan, you'd better sit down. I've got news that's going to blow your mind." "Professor, what happened?" "Our AI healthcare project, it's been selected for presentation at CES 2022 in Las Vegas." CES. The Consumer Electronics Show. The most important technology event on Earth. The place where the world's most groundbreaking innovations are unveiled to companies, investors, and media from every corner of the planet. "Professor, that's unreal." "How?" "Our publications caught the attention of a consortium of American universities and tech investors focused on healthcare. They believe our system has real commercial potential. They want us to present. And I'm involved in this?" "Ethan, you are the lead presenter. This is your project as much as it's mine. You wrote 70% of the code. Your algorithms are the heart of it." It felt like my life had become a movie. 3 years after being told, "You were always a mistake," I was about to step onto the stage at CES, representing Carnegie Mellon, presenting an invention that could literally save millions of lives. "When is it?" I asked, almost breathless. "January." "So, what do you say? You ready to fly to Vegas, for a presentation that could change your life forever?" Was I ready? It was the opportunity every young developer dreams of. "Professor, yes. Yes, absolutely. It would be the greatest honor of my life." In the weeks leading up to CES, I dove headfirst into preparation. We refined the system, crafted a 15-minute presentation that made our technology accessible to any audience, and created stunning visuals to showcase the power behind our AI model. Carlos at Tech Solutions was beyond supportive. "Ethan," he told me, "this opportunity could open doors that don't even exist yet. Go with our full support." The most fascinating part was how my family reacted when I told them over dinner in December. "Las Vegas," my dad repeated, like he wasn't sure he'd heard me right. "In the US?" "Yeah, Dad. I'm going to present our artificial intelligence project at the biggest tech event in the world." My mom set her fork down, staring at me with a look that was part disbelief, and something disturbingly close to regret. "Ethan," she said, her voice carrying a softness I hadn't heard in years, This is a big deal, isn't it?" "It's the biggest opportunity of my career so far, Mom." Emily was practically glowing. "Ethan, this is incredible. My brother representing the US at an international tech conference." My dad stood up from his chair, walked over, and hugged me, something he hadn't done in years. "Son. I'm proud of you. Really proud." It was the first time I'd heard those words from him in 3 years. My mom stayed quiet for a moment, pushing food around on her plate. Then, she looked up at me, tears filling her eyes. "Ethan. I need to ask you something." "What?" "Forgiveness." The word hit the air like a bomb. It was the first time in 3 years she had explicitly admitted she'd been wrong. "I'm sorry for the things I said. For not believing in you. For being cruel." Tears were rolling down her face now. "I look at the man you've become, everything you've built, and I realize I was so wrong. You were never a mistake. You were always a blessing, one I was too blind to recognize." It was the moment a part of me had secretly hoped for over these 3 years, the kind of closure every wounded child yearns for. But here's the thing. After building my identity independent of anyone's validation, I realized I no longer needed that apology to feel whole. It was healing. It was powerful. But it didn't define me anymore. "Mom. I forgive you. And I love you. Despite everything." "You forgive me?" she asked, sobbing. "I forgave you a long time ago. Holding on to pain, it only would have hurt me." That night, our family had the most honest conversation we'd had in years. My mom shared the frustrations and fears that had made her so harsh. My dad admitted he should have stood up for me more. Emily confessed that, for a long time, she had felt guilty for receiving all the attention and praise while I struggled in the shadows. It was cathartic. It was real. And it proved something I had long since learned: our happiness can never depend on anyone else's approval, not even our families. In January 2022, I boarded a flight to Las Vegas with Dr. Sanders. My first time traveling internationally. My first time in the United States. My first time attending an event on a global scale. CES was surreal. Tens of thousands of people. The world's biggest tech companies. Innovations that felt like they belonged in science fiction movies. And in the middle of it, a 22-year-old kid from Pittsburgh presenting a technology that could revolutionize healthcare. Our presentation was scheduled for the 3rd day of the event, in the University Innovations Pavilion. As I stood backstage, looking out at a crowd of about 200 investors, executives, and journalists, I felt a calm, quiet fire inside me. "Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ethan Carter, and I'm here to present a breakthrough in AI-powered medical diagnostics that could save millions of lives worldwide." For 15 minutes, I delivered the pitch I had practiced over and over, in fluent English I'd sharpened relentlessly for years. I showed how our system could detect patterns in medical scans that even the most experienced doctors sometimes missed. I presented accuracy data that left healthcare professionals in the room visibly impressed. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. But the real payoff came afterward. Over the next 2 days, I was approached by 3 American venture capital firms, 2 multinational pharmaceutical companies, and a European hospital consortium. The most compelling offer came from MedTech Ventures, a VC fund specializing in medical technology. They offered $2 million in seed funding to license our technology and help build a commercial version. $2 million. More money than I had ever imagined seeing in my lifetime. More validation than I'd ever dreamed of receiving. When I flew back home, I brought with me not just signed contracts, but a new identity, an emerging international voice in medical technology. News of our CES presentation spread fast. The Wall Street Journal ran a piece titled "The 22-Year-Old Who Stole the Show at CES." TechCrunch wrote about our AI system's potential to revolutionize diagnostics. CNN Tech ran an interview with me under the headline, "From Underdog to Industry Disruptor." I was suddenly flooded with invitations to speak at universities, to consult for major tech firms, to appear on podcasts. In March 2022, during my graduation ceremony at Carnegie Mellon, I was chosen as the class speaker. Standing on that stage, in front of 500 graduates, their families, and the entire faculty, I delivered a speech I never thought I'd give. Fellow graduates, I began, our academic journey ends today, but our journey as agents of change is only beginning. I spoke about perseverance. About turning doubt into determination. About how the greatest victories come from the darkest struggles. We've all faced people who doubted us. Some of you, like me, may have faced doubt within your own families. But here's what I've learned: our responsibility isn't to prove anything to those who didn't believe. It's to build lives so meaningful, so undeniable, that their doubt becomes irrelevant. As I scanned the crowd, my eyes found my family sitting in the third row. My dad was crying openly. My mom was smiling with real, genuine pride. Emily had her phone out, recording every second. After the ceremony, we celebrated at a rooftop restaurant in downtown Pittsburgh. My entire family was there: parents, sister, grandparents, uncles, cousins. It felt like my success had become a shared victory for everyone. "Ethan," my Aunt Clara said during dinner, "you know your mom talks about you nonstop now, right?" To anyone who'll listen. "My son went to Carnegie Mellon, works in tech, is gonna be a millionaire." It was ironic. The same person who once called me a mistake, now bragged about me to everyone she met. Then, in May 2022, I made the decision that would redefine the next chapter of my life. I accepted the offer from MedTech Ventures and moved to San Francisco to become the CTO of our new startup. San Francisco. Silicon Valley. The beating heart of the global tech world. At 22 years old, I was now leading the development of an AI healthcare platform funded by $2 million in venture capital. My salary was $12,000 a month, plus equity that could be worth millions if our product succeeded. It was an opportunity that surpassed anything I could have dreamed of just 3 years earlier. The farewell at the airport was emotional. My dad hugged me tightly, tears in his eyes. "Son, I'm so proud of you, I don't even have the words. You've gone further than any of us ever imagined." My mom held me close and whispered in my ear, "Ethan, forgive your foolish mother who didn't know how to recognize the treasure she had right in front of her. You are the greatest pride of my life." Emily was the last to say goodbye. "Ethan, you taught me that there are no limits when you truly believe in yourself. Thank you for being my brother." As the plane lifted off and I watched the city shrink beneath me, I reflected on the entire journey. In 3.5 years, I had gone from family mistake to CTO of an international startup. From an insecure, overlooked kid, to an emerging global leader in medical technology. But the most important transformation wasn't external. It was internal. I had learned that our worth does not come from anyone else's opinion. Our identity must be built on real achievements. And adversity can become the most powerful fuel in the world. In San Francisco, I quickly found my place in the Bay Area tech scene. Our startup, which we named MediAI, started gaining serious traction. Hospitals began testing our technology. VCs expressed interest in future rounds of funding. Then, in December 2022, exactly 4 years after that morning that nearly broke me, I received the news that would crown my transformation. Forbes 30 Under 30, Healthcare Technology. At 22 years old. It was a recognition that validated, once and for all, that I had become one of the most promising young minds in global medical technology. When the list was published, my phone exploded with messages. Hundreds of congratulations from colleagues, professors, investors, mentors, and family. But the message that meant the most came from my mom. "Son, I just saw the news. I don't understand much about these things, but I do understand that it's very important. I want you to know. I am the proudest mother in the world. And I ask for forgiveness every day, for not seeing your greatness from the beginning. In that moment, I realized something profound. My journey had come full circle. Not because of the money. Not because of the fame. But because I had turned the deepest pain of my life into the greatest source of strength. The boy who was once called a mistake had become the young man who now inspires others to believe in their own potential. In January 2023, exactly 5 years after I wrote that first goal list, I sat down to compare where I started to where I had arrived. Original goals versus reality. Goal: GPA 3.7, reality 3.9 at Carnegie Mellon. Goal: $5,000 per month, reality $12,000 per month plus equity. Goal: own a business, reality CTO of a startup with $2 million in funding. Goal: recognition in my field, reality Forbes 30 under 30. Goal: earn family respect, reality unquestionable, undeniable pride. I had shattered every single goal, by a mile. But beyond the numbers, what mattered most was that I had fully reclaimed my dignity. I had built an identity rooted in real value. Today, looking back, I understand something crystal clear. That morning in March 2019, the most painful day of my life, was actually the greatest gift life ever gave me. Those cruel words forced me to confront my own limits. To ask whether I was truly the inadequate person they described, or if I could become someone far greater. They forced me to choose, collapse, or evolve. And I chose to evolve. I learned that rejection, even when it comes from the people we love most, can be transformed into rocket fuel for extraordinary achievement. I learned that our self-worth cannot be built on anyone else's approval, not even our families. I learned that teenage mistakes, academic struggles, or being different doesn't define your capacity for greatness. Most importantly, I learned this. When someone tells you that you're a mistake, you have two choices: you can believe them and live small. Or you can use that doubt as motivation to build a life so extraordinary, so undeniable, that it becomes impossible for anyone to ever doubt your worth again. I chose the second option. And it was the best decision I've ever made. Today, at 24 years old, I lead a team of 30 engineers at a company valued at $50 million. Our technology has already saved thousands of lives through faster, more accurate medical diagnoses. I am recognized internationally as one of the leading young minds in AI-driven healthcare. My family treats me with respect and genuine pride. My mother regularly tells people, "My son, he's my greatest achievement." My father often shakes his head and says, "I don't know how he did it, but he did. But I know how." It was the pain of rejection. The determination to prove, not to others, but to myself, that I had value. The discipline to outwork anyone. And the wisdom to turn adversity into advantage. The boy who was once called a mistake became the man who proves that there are no mistakes in life. Only opportunities for extraordinary growth. And this is just the beginning of my story. If you made it this far, comment below, what part of this story inspired you the most? Hit like if you believe rejection can be transformed into power. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that prove anything is possible when you truly believe in yourself. Sometimes, the cruelest words we hear are exactly the catalyst we need to discover our true greatness.